Hey guys, and welcome to another Patreon video with me, Jim, Denver Dave, and Punk Raider. And in this Patreon video, we're going to be talking about, after 7 weeks of the season, our biggest disappointment of a team and our biggest happy surprise of a team. So we've each picked one team. If we have a duplication, then we'll kind of gloss over it. But I've certainly got my biggest disappointment and biggest surprise here. How about you, Dave? You got one there?
Yeah, so I think it was a little bit of confusion on my part as to how we're looking at it. Are we looking at it as in overrated and underrated based on people's perceptions now, or are we looking at it where we're
Let's just do what you feel, Dave. What has been disappointing for you as a team this season, and what's been
I mean, the Broncos
shockingly
been
disappointing? No, can't do our own teams.
considering we
Let's
got
not do
Russell
our own
Wilson.
teams. All right, we could be here all night if we do that. So
I think the one what I want to go with at the moment is a team who a lot of people rate, but I feel they're just a little bit overrated. And I'm going to stay in AFC West. I'm going to go the Chargers. There's no doubt that the Chargers have considerable personnel skill, really do. But they just don't seem to improve situationally year on year. It's the same when Anthony Lynch, what was his name? The head coach, I can't remember what his name was now.
Yeah, it was Anthony Lynch.
Yeah, so when Anthony Lynch was there, key moments, you fart in the wind and all of a sudden the chances are gone. They'd make stupid mistakes and consistently shoot themselves in the foot. Nothing whatsoever is Anthony Lynn, that was it.
Yes.
Not Lynch. It's close.
Just came into my head.
Yeah. And nothing's changed. They've got a quarterback who most people would agree is a top 5. I mean, if someone wants to make an argument he's only a top 7, fine, okay. I think they're wrong. I think he's a top 5 quarterback. And yet they still can't do it. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They've spent a lot of money on the offensive line, bringing in the center from whoever.
Corey Linsley.
Yeah, Corey Linsley. Sean Slater was, although he's injured at the moment, but even when he wasn't, he was a first-round pick. They've spent a lot of money shoring up the positions they needed to improve, like Khalil Mack at pass rush.
JC Jackson in the corner.
JC Jackson in the corner. They just cannot click. There's something fundamentally in the psyche of the Chargers that doesn't allow them to be effective. And the media love them, and I just don't get it. So right now, even, you know what, probably fits both bills. Teams right now who everyone seems to adore, the Chargers. Team from preseason who everyone seemed to adore and think they were going to be high powered, the Chargers. They're just not seeing it. Part of it is AFC West hate. But yeah, I don't feel like they're a steady bet in any situation.
No, they're almost a loser franchise, aren't they? I mean, we saw that with the Browns when Jarvis Landry came in and said these guys don't know how to win. They're so used to losing. It just becomes second nature to them. And the Chargers, for all their great talent,
but
they don't know how to win.
I think that's why they moved
so many
stadium,
of the errors.
That's why they moved stadium, was because they wanted to try and lose that San Diego Charger shoot themselves kind of apathy, and it's just followed them.
It was partly that, but it's partly because they get to play in someone else's stadium for a ground rent of $1 per year. I mean, I think partially you're right in the fact that they don't know how to win, but it's the fact that they shoot themselves in the foot so often. It's like last year, the Raiders offered them a draw, basically. No, come on,
we did
see each other through, hold our hands. No, we're going to go for it. Okay, then you'll lose. You know, it's constant that they do it to themselves, and it's some kind of self-harm issue that they're never going to be able to get over anytime soon. They need a complete overhaul in back office. I don't think the playing staff is that bad. Obviously, there's obvious talent there, but yeah, that's my overrated team, Chargers.
Okay, how about you, Punk? Or biggest disappointment?
I'm going with biggest disappointment. For me, in pre-season, I really thought that Matt Ryan going to the Colts could spark something for them. I know they didn't have the sexy roster and they haven't got the great wideouts and this, that, and the other, but I thought a good, solid veteran quarterback going into a team that's got Jonathan Taylor and a decent O-line and so on and so forth, and decent defense as well. I honestly thought they would be pushing the Titans this year for that division title, and it's just been a dumpster fire. The whole thing has just been dreadful. I mean, Matt Ryan, I could play quarterback. for the way he's playing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I
he's
can
been
take a
benched now.
snap.
He's pretty much retired. Let's be honest.
I can
as of
take a
this moment.
snap,
But
run backwards, and get sacked or throw an
do you
interception.
know what
I
I
can
mean?
do
Or-
that.
Or
you
at
know,
least
and
throw the ball 5 yards up in the air for
yeah, I'll
someone
do it
to
for
try
league
and get
minimum
it.
as well.
Yeah.
You don't need to pay me that
Exactly.
much. I'll do that for you. It's fine.
But yeah, it just feels like one of those experiments that just didn't work, and almost like none of us saw it coming. We all thought that, the veteran quarterback going to
I
a
saw
new
it coming.
team just to I think you guys weren't as high as I was on the Colts, but
Oh,
yeah,
I had him finishing below the Jags. You lot laughed at me.
I definitely laughed at you because
Yeah.
like I said, I expected this team to be a decent team, and they're just not. They're
I
just
thought they were going
not.
to be good in spite of Matt Ryan. So Jonathan Taylor had got them enough wins anyway. So I thought it was like a 9-8 type situation.
Yeah, but I thought even if you taking Matt Ryan to go in there as a game manager and not to lose the game, and
They should
compared to
still be doing better
Carson
than
Wentz,
they are.
you look at what they did last season with Carson Wentz, and it was almost Chargerish. They're throwing the games away and shooting themselves in the foot rather than being beaten. And I thought Matt Ryan's just going to take all of that uncertainty out, and we'll just, won't be spectacular, but we'll get you, 20 or 25 for 180, 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. In the meantime, Jonathan Taylor's hitting you for 130 and 2 touchdowns himself. So, yeah, for me, it's the fact they've not been able to do that for whatever reasons. Whether it's personnel, coaching, I don't know. I've not really
Matt
looked, but
Ryan.
it's just, to me, it's just been a really, really, really bad case of disappointment in what I thought the Colts would be and where they are now.
One thing I do want to point out is that the Colts are still ahead of the Jags in AFC South, just right now. So I'm not going to claim to be correct just yet, but there's no way they're finishing above the Jags with Erlinger playing quarterback.
No, absolutely not. And the fact that they've already made that switch is pretty obvious that they don't expect to either. So, I had the Colts going in as a playoff team this season, and they're not even looking anything like a 500 team, let alone a playoff team.
Yeah, that's a legit shout.
My biggest disappointment is similar, Punk. I had a team squeaking into the playoffs this year. 8-9, but they're nowhere near it, and that's the Detroit Lions. Yeah, I had them having 4 wins at this stage. They've only got 1. Last year they were 3-13-1, but they picked up by the end of the season, so they won 3 of their last 6 games. In their last game, week 18, they beat the Packers. Amon-Ra St. Brown was playing really well. They're starting to get ahead of steam together. They had a pretty good draft. Aiden Hutchinson was obviously a good pickup. They moved back up to get Jameson Williams, who I was hoping was going to be starting by now, at wide receiver from Bama, because he had 15 touchdowns in 15 games for Alabama. So there's that. Jared Goff has gone to being just Jared Goff again. And it's actually worse than last year, because if you look at their points differential, they were minus 142 last year, point differential, for touchdowns to points conceded. The only 3 teams worse than them last season were the Giants, the Jets, and the Jags. And all 3 of those have made improvements in that area. Jags are still kind of struggling, but at least they've made some improvement. This year, they're currently at minus 48 points after 6 games. If you extrapolate that over the rest of the season, that's minus 176. So that's worse than last year.
It's not healthy, is it?
It's not good.
And the stupid thing is with the Lions, the first couple of games, they looked fairly good. They were scoring points. They were playing
Highest
well on
scoring team in the
defense.
NFL.
Yeah, exactly that. They got that one shutout against, I can't remember who shut them out. Patriots. And it all seems to have fallen apart since then.
Yeah. So that is my biggest disappointment, is a team that I thought actually were going to make strides this year.
It looked like they were going to turn the corner, and obviously I have a vested interest with the Lions, but it looked like they were going to turn the corner, and it's the same old Lions, giving up big plays at the wrong times. So, but yeah.
I think I even went with Dan Campbell as Coach of the Year.
Well, the kneecaps off to take that one back.
Yeah, that's not. Thing is, that's not even like a bad pickup, because you think the improvement that you could end up seeing, and also some romance of Hard Knocks as well. So what's the other side of the coin? What's the underrated teams then? I'm happy to start if you want me to.
I'll go first because I went last just now, just to get out of the way because I know what you're going to say, and it's not. I'm not going to pick the Giants, even though it's the obvious answer is the Giants. But I'm going to go for the Seattle Seahawks. Just like the Giants, I had zero faith in that QB room. They'd gone 7-10 last year with Russell Wilson, so I wasn't expecting anything to come out of this one. And
Partially
Geno,
Russell Wilson, he was injured a bit last year as well.
yeah, but no one was expecting Geno Smith to do what he's doing this season. He is completely different to what we saw in New York, and that was his only real sample that we've got from him because he's only been a relief guy after that, just backup. So it's been 10 years of sitting behind some very good quarterbacks. We've been through this already, but not just that, all of the draft picks are working. So Charles Cross was a sensible pick in the top 10 at left tackle. And Abraham Lucas, who was a 4th rounder, he's coming at right tackle and he's shot up the other side. So that's given Geno's time to make these passes. Boye Mafe has come in at linebacker. He's already got 17 tackles and a sack. So he's fitted right in. Tariq Woolen, 4 interceptions in 7 games. He's already on pace to become a contender for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then you've got Kenneth Walker, who might be all right. Not often you get a team potentially getting an offensive and defensive rookie of the year in the same draft class, but there you go. They're on top of the NFC West. No one would have said that before the season started. They're a game clear. And
before the season started, well, the end of last season, I'll be honest, I thought Pete Carroll had had enough and was going to jack it in. And so
I expect him to leave. Yeah.
As soon as Russell Wilson went, I thought that's it. He can't be bothered at his age to start rebuilding another team. And all of a sudden, we've got Geno Smith, who's an MVP candidate. We've got, like you said, Walker that's running out of his shoes. And he's just put together this team that believes it's possible. It's nuts, to be honest. I mean, I think I had the Seahawks at the beginning of the season, maybe with 6 wins, possibly.
I think I had 5.
Yeah, I think I had 3.
But maybe we were distracted by Drew Lock and we weren't seeing Geno Smith come up on the outside. But he's come out of nowhere to do this. This wasn't what we saw from Geno before.
No, not at all. He's a much better quarterback now than we've ever seen him before. His time in New York, it happens to players.
He was thrown in. He was thrown into that Jets offense, and it's not been good for a long time. So it's not as if he had much chance.
Yeah,
it was second round pick,
and I think it's great that he's managed to rehabilitate himself as much as he has.
Let's be honest, it's the Jets. It's where quarterbacks go to die since Joe Namath. It's even now.
It's been a tough ground. So that
one
and
season
also
of Brett Favre's probably the only one that.
Yeah, but Brett Favre wasn't Brett Favre, was he? Not really.
It was his landing spot between going Packers to Vikings, wasn't it? So.
And thanks to the Broncos, they've currently got the 6th overall pick in next year's draft. So the Seahawks are sitting pretty. They're a year ahead at least.
By the end of the season, that will not be the 6th overall pick.
Be higher,
the second.
Yeah. Could be. Anyway, that was my surprise. I put that in as my biggest happy surprise because I know one of you is going to say the Giants. So
I'm not going to say the Giants.
Punk, what have you got?
My biggest happy surprise is not one team but 2 teams.
New Jersey teams.
It is New Jersey. Now, we spoke about them last week. I think, Dave, in your game of the week.
Yeah, my region of the week.
Decided to renege on that and go with the what the hell's going on at the Meadowlands.
It was a New York special.
It was a New York special, and I think New York is special at the minute. I can't believe. I mean, I had both these teams improving on last season. Did I expect them to be playing A, at the level they're playing, and B, have the records they've got? Not in a million years. I think the biggest surprise of the 2 is probably the Giants. I think with the draft picks that the Jets picked up and the positions they were in, you could see what they were doing, and you could see that they would all improve the team. But Sauce Gardner's turned into a lockdown corner within 7 weeks of starting his first game. It's the last time something like that happened, funnily enough, was Darrelle Revis. But for him to have picked up and got up to speed as quickly as he has is just unbelievable. And that Jets defense, I think you said it in the main pod this week, Dave, is playing far beyond a level that you thought was possible for them.
I think that's the thing. The 2 teams are doing really, really well. sorry to interrupt. The two teams are doing really, really well, and they're doing it in different ways. The Jets have a phenomenal side of the ball. Defense is, doing everything that it should be, whereas the Giants are good both sides of the ball. Still have limitations, but they're good both sides of the ball, and crucially, they're good on the third side of the ball, coaching. That's where they're really excelling, and they're doing the right things at the right times and making the right play calls. That's important.
Exactly, and if the coaching is good and you're not making stupid errors with time management and so on and so forth, it just helps immeasurably. Now, having said that, just to move over to the Giants for a minute, Saquon Barkley being fit is such a massive bonus, and him getting back to where he was in his rookie and second season before that horrible leg injury, I think is really giving them the foundation and the platform to allow Daniel Jones to be a bit Daniel Jones-ish.
No way they're 6-1 if Saquon's not playing the way he's playing. He has carried that team on several of those victories.
Yeah, and when I think we put him in the power plays the other week just for sitting down, because there are so many running backs that would not think about that side of the game and would go for the touchdown and whatever, and their bonus. So for me, it's a really happy. I think the league is better when the Giants are good, honestly, because it stops the Cowboys from being all cocky and all the rest of it.
I agree with that.
I think the Giants being good puts them in their box a little bit, and
the fact that the Eagles are good as well makes it twice as sweet.
Yeah, I mean, that's an extra one. I could have thrown the Eagles in there, but they're kind of doing what I expected them to do. So not so much of a surprise. But the Giants and the Jets, playing the way they're playing, being coached the way they're being coached, it's just good, solid football all around. The Jets offense probably needs a bit of work, but, that will come with time. I'm very, very happy.
It's a real shame about Breece Hall because he had a great start to the season, but I think Daboll was the unknown. We've seen so many coaches going to New York for the Giants and just absolutely shit the bed. Being terrible. Joe Judge, Ben McAdoo. These are names that should live in infamy. And Daboll, although being a very good offensive coordinator, has not been a head coach before. And you're going into a high pressure situation in New York where they're expecting success, and he's hit the ground running, and what he came in to do was to get the most out of Daniel Jones. He's getting it. I'm personally worried about Daniel Jones, mostly because of his running. He's not a great runner and slider.
He's not a great slider. He doesn't
and
protect
the injury histories
himself.
He's got, I think it's only a matter of time until he does something. It's a bit similar to Josh Allen, actually. Although he's built like a linebacker, he's gonna hit himself into some trouble sooner or later. It might ruin our season.
In a weird sort of a way, the success they're having now could be detrimental to them in the long run, because if they start to tail off, come the end of the season, it's contract time. They're going to go, do we give Saquon Barkley the big contract that you don't ever want to give a running back? Well, yes, you probably have to. And do you now have to give Daniel Jones the contract that you don't ever really want to give Daniel Jones? Because at the moment, he's looking good and proving that he's the guy that the ownership so desperately want him to be. Well, yes, you probably do. And then what you're doing is potentially condemning yourself for a further 3 or 4 years.
And I think those are questions that we'll probably get better clues as to what will happen as we go through the season. Yeah. I mean, I do not expect the Giants to finish the season 15-2 or whatever.
Could you imagine?
It would be amazing if they
did. Be raining cats,
Yeah, exactly. Cats and dogs living together. And harmony and rain falling upwards.
Yeah,
it'll be all of that. But I'm just very pleasantly surprised at the way the New Jersey teams are playing.
You have a different one, Dave, or have we covered it already?
Yeah, so no, we have. Mine's a bit rogue. It's not in the traditional sense of what we've discussed, but Punk's just had 2 teams, so I'm going slightly sideways on this. I'm going for the Vikings. Now, the reason I'm going for the Vikings, I thought the Vikings would be good in preseason. I think they're good now.
You said they'd win the NFC North.
Yes, absolutely.
That's not a surprise for you, right?
They still will. Absolutely not. The reason I've included it, when you're watching stuff on YouTube and you get autoplay and other stuff comes on, a few power rankings come on. I don't really dig on power rankings, not really my thing. But for most power rankings, the Vikings are 5th, 6th, or 7th, something like that. And you would not believe the attitude towards the Vikings of going, yeah, they're currently fifth, so they're just fine, and almost brushing them off. But then the teams who were behind them waxing lyrical about them. This is a real team. The apathy towards them is shocking. And I think everyone's including them because they kind of have to, without realizing that potentially, I know Kirk Cousins, I get that. The only team they've lost to is the Eagles so far this season. They've won every other game. They currently sit top of their division. They're good both sides of the ball. The only issue they have is stopping passing. Currently got fifth worst in terms of passing yards per game, but they're a legit team and not getting the respect that they deserve.
The problems I see with the Vikings and the reason they don't get the respect they deserve is because, number one, they don't blow out teams. They get big leads and then let other teams come back on them and get close.
Blew out the Packers day one.
Hang on. They're also in division with the Bears and the Lions. No one's taking that division seriously with those two in there, and the Packers playing as badly as they are. So it's almost like, well, the Vikings are a gimme because we know they're a decent team. They're probably going to win the division. We don't really need to talk about. Let's talk about something a bit more interesting, like, I don't know, AFC West, or a division that's closer anyway, or even the NFC East, where you've now got three teams that could be going to the playoffs. So I think the Vikings are a little bit victims of their own success.
Underappreciated, but
maybe
underappreciated of their current circumstances.
Yeah,
they're also the NFL's equivalent of soft scoop ice cream, aren't they? They're okay until you got the lights on them, and then they just melt.
I love soft
scoop. They melt in the
cream.
lights when lights are turned on, and we've seen it before. It's not a new team. This team doesn't perform well under pressure.
They're not great on defense either, so I think
they're fine.
I think the problem with the Vikings is they're fine. That's exactly it. They're fine. They're good. They're fine. They're all right.
They've got if they can get Jefferson playing right. They've still got Adam Thielen, who's phenomenal. Dalvin Cook, if he stays fit, is great. Yeah. Offensively, the issue is they're not sexy at quarterback. They're not really a sexy franchise, and you're right. They're in somewhat of a soft market. But it's just at the moment, it's the underappreciation part of it right now that is a bit, that's deafening, to be honest, because everyone was waxing lyrical about every other team in the top 10 apart from the Vikings. Everyone just kind of glossed over.
You listen to Colin Cowherd again? I told you to stop doing that.
No. Come on, give me some credit.
Oh, okay.
No, it was a.
You're watching NFL Power Rankings, so no, I won't.
No, I was to say it was on an autoplay loop thing. And it was NFL Network stuff, and everyone just glossed over it. It was just like, come on, they're better than what you're giving them credit for. I mean, within one of the segments talking about the Vikings, they switched over and started talking about the Dolphins because that was the last game they played for 3 or 4 minutes. I'm like, you're meant to be talking about the Vikings, and you've completely switched to a different team. I know we do that on our podcast, but come on.
Who have the Vikings played?
Lost to the Eagles, beat the Saints, beat the Packers, beat the Bears, beat the Lions, beat the Dolphins.
Well, there you go. And that Dolphins team didn't have Tua in it, did it?
There's no statement game in there, I'd say.
But they've beaten everyone
to make people talk about them.
But they got the Cards next, and they got the football team, and then the Bills, and the Cowboys, and the Patriots.
Bills.
So there's opportunities there.
If they perform in that Bills game, people will start talking about them.
I'm still not sure
if they get whitewashed, then it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, but it's just purely down to underappreciation. I think they're a better team than a lot of people are giving them credit for.
So there you go, guys. Biggest disappointment and biggest surprise. We managed to come up with quite a few teams there, more than the 6 I thought we were going to have. But there we go. So thanks very much. Until next time, I've been Jim. That's been Denver Dave, and that's been Punk Raider. Cheers.